The majority of us go through the educational system and life and never learn what's right for us. Maybe it's time for you to create your own definition of success. And that's where we come in. This is the SUCCESSology podcast, here to supplement the traditional education system and life with real-world skills and knowledge, helping you create your own definition of success. SUCCESSology. Here's your host, Rajdeep Singh.
Ladies and gentlemen, today on the show, we are chatting with Mr. Pankaj Thakar, who possesses 30 plus years of experience in entrepreneurship and is a Harvard and MIT alumni. He currently acts as a Chief Executive Officer at PadUp Ventures, which is a 360 mentorship-based incubator and accelerator based in Gurgaon, India. And to learn more about PadUp Ventures, please visit www.padup.in. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Pankaj Thakar. Sir, I hope you're doing well.
Oh, I'm doing very well, Rajdeep. Thanks for asking. You and your listeners are also doing well.
Yes, as I mentioned, we're trying to sort of push past the current, difficulties, but I'm sure it's just, taking one step at a time, and hopefully we'll push through.
Sure, makes sense.
So as I said, it's an honor to have you here. I mean, you have 30 years of corporate and startup experience, and you have built startups globally. So can you just walk us through your life journey?
Okay. It's pretty exciting being an entrepreneur. Once you become an entrepreneur, life becomes exciting. Before that, it's like, pretty mundane. So I graduated from Delhi University in 1985 and then joined HCL. That was my first job. I started in Delhi and then went on to become large account manager, was handling, wherever my accounts took me all over India. And then quit in 1994. I quit HCL and went to another company called India Telecom Limited. This was a breakaway group from HCL, which was trying to set up some telecom-based businesses, which was not really which was upcoming, but not happening at that scale. So we decided we should take a plunge. A couple of years there, but it didn't work out because the company sank, rather tanked, and then moved on to become an entrepreneur. So we represented, me and three other guys, we left HCL and we represented about 7 or 8 different companies from the world in India for graphic products. I quit that company in 2000. We had, 2000. From 96 to 2000, I was doing that. These were all internationally famed company, and we used to be their exclusive distributors in India. But that was box pushing, and I didn't quite like it. Later part of it, primarily because I've been going to US very often, and internet was kicking in, and that bug bit me, and I packed my bags and went to US. I landed up in San Francisco or San Jose rather, and did a startup there called ConsulNet, which was into Wi-Fi mesh networking. Raised some money, but due to 9/11 in 2011, the IT sector actually got a major hit. And before that, of course, there was a huge recession that seeped into digital world, or the internet world as it was called that time. And but we survived somehow for 3-4 years. In 2004, I came back to India and I started another company here called Cellcast. Cellcast is actually a UK company, and I collaborated with the founders there to create the Indian entity, which was very different than what they were doing. And they pumped in about $1 million as seed money, and we built up company grounds up from 1994 to 2013. I was the CEO of that company. We raised a lot of money, I think total about $30 million. Company was, at its peak, it was doing $50 million worth of revenue. And then there was some government regulation which kind of, put a spoke into our growth. So we quickly turned around and half of the company we shelled and half the company, the telecom part, we sold. Cellcast was in the cusp of telecom and broadcast. So we used to sit in the middle and we used to provide the platform that would enable you to interact with television programs in real time through SMS, IVR, and internet. And this was a premium service, but government put a cap on that, saying that you can't charge more than this if you're interacting with television. And that's where we sold the broadcast business, and we shut down the broadcast business and sold the telecom business to another company called Value First in 2013, where I became their chief strategy officer, spent a year under contract, and then quit that company, took a year sabbatical, went to Harvard initially for first 6 months, did some executive courses there, all in digital medium, right from digital advertising, digital media handling, digital platforms, big data analysis, and entrepreneurship. And then went to MIT on the other side of the river. Again, I did a lot of executive courses there, just trying to get the understanding the technology, how it is moving, how it is moved, and how will it move in the future. And there I learned data analytics, I learned AI, I learned ML, I did blockchain. I did almost everything that I could get my hands on, including entrepreneurship again. Though I had sold my company, I had been 3 times around entrepreneurs, but I thought understanding entrepreneurship from the academic purpose is very important. And I had learned that and came back and decided to mentor companies rather than starting on my own again. And since then, I've been mentoring companies. It's been 5+ years. I've mentored over maybe 150 companies. 125 are primarily are currently done under new programs, but otherwise I've mentored about 150 odd companies. 30 odd have raised money, subsequent rounds, and we are still continuing. So that's the journey I have.
And this venture you're currently talking about is called PadUp Ventures.
PadUp Ventures. Yeah, PadUp Ventures is primarily a platform that it's a knowledge platform that helps startups, incubators, accelerators, corporates, government to actually take the entrepreneurs and their venture to a very structured framework where they can validate their idea. Once they validate, we incubate and accelerate them. And this entire program has 3 parts. The first is 4 months, incubation is 6 months, and acceleration is 9 months. And depending on where you are in your journey, you can enter either incubation or acceleration. But validation is must, because what you realize is, people jump into doing a startup but have no clue how to do it. So a lot of hit and trial happens, and that hit and trial leads to longer time for figuring out what's the right thing for you, who's the right customer, what is the right value proposition, what could be my real market, what could be the value, what could be the customer paying me for my value that I'm offering, and so on and so forth. So all these questions which actually needs to be answered upfront, they get answered over a period of time, and the journey becomes difficult, journey becomes unpredictable, and the journey becomes extended. So to avoid that, we put a program which is for 4 months where you come, we help you, we take you through the framework. In 4 months' time, either you go big or you go home.
True, absolutely. I mean, so a couple of things actually stand out. You mentioned that in your life's journey, you mentioned that education, understanding entrepreneurship from an education standpoint is important. From my limited experience and obviously just reading a lot, all the gurus, if you will, they say that entrepreneurship is something you have to try. You can't learn entrepreneurship. So can you sort of describe what you meant by, education is important for entrepreneurship?
Education is important because the reason is that, as I said, either you do hit and trial, okay? You keep trying and you keep doing it, you keep trying, you succeed, you don't succeed, you find a way, you hit the blind spot, you navigate that blind spot, you keep doing whatever you want. But there's a better way of doing it, which is, if everything is about a customer, right? If you're building a startup, if you're building an enterprise, you need to have a customer. That means everything that you do is around customer. This is what we call customer centric. Now, customer-centric means you need to find the customer first. And why would a customer become a customer? Because he will become a customer if you're solving a problem that is somehow hurting him or her, and he's ready to pay for solving that problem. So take a step back, which means that you need to figure out if you're solving a real problem. And how do you figure that out? You figure that out by talking to the customers. And now, what are you going to talk to your customers? Obviously, there is a way to talk to your customers to get more information. Based on that information, you create a solution that's going to satisfy his problem to the core, 100% solution to the problem. And once you have that 100% solution to the problem, then you offer that to your customer who is willing to pay for that. But the question then comes, does he have ability to pay? If he doesn't have ability to pay, then your effort is going in vain. So what we do is we help him first find out if there is somebody willing to pay. And then we help him figure out what is his ability to pay. And then we help them figure out how do you create a solution that is well within his ability to pay. And ability to pay not only because of his affordability factor, it also comes from what is the value he is getting. If the value that he is getting is actually 100 or 200% more than what he's getting from any other current solution. I'll give you an example. When Henry Ford built car, he solved the problem of transporting people from one place to the other. Before he solved it, it was done by horse carriages. Horse carriages would cost, let's say, $200 that time. How much did a car cost? $5,000 or $2,000, or at least 3 times of that horse carriage. Why? Because it could transport faster, it would transport much safer, and you could do many more times than one time. So the value that you offer was many times over the horse cart rate, and hence people were ready to pay maybe 3, 4, 5 times more of horse cart rate. Now, this is same goes with every product. So every product currently that is solving a customer's problem, either it's not solving to the fullest extent, hence the customer is looking for a full solution or an alternative solution. And if you're offering that alternative solution and that alternative solution is significantly better, then the affordability factor goes away and ability to pay comes in because of the value. If the customer perceives the value of a product, then he's ready to pay for that value. Now, all these things, you can do it by hit and trial, but if entrepreneurship is something that you want to learn, then this you will do it in a very structured manner. You will do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and there may be about 30 steps or 20 steps that you have. At the end of that steps, all those steps that you complete, you have a proof that you're solving a real problem, you have a real solution, it has value that the customer appreciates, and he is willing and able to pay. Based on that, you say there are some million customers like this, hence my enterprise or the startup that I'm building will be able to cater to these 1 million people, and hence I should go and do it. Now, you do it with your own money or somebody else's money, that's the second part. But if you learn this over in a structured manner, you will be able to finish this entire thing in 4 to 5 months. That's the entrepreneurship education I talk about. In 4 months' time, either you go big or you go home.
No, it makes sense because the normal way is you try until you either succeed or as you rightfully said, you go home. So I think the concept that sort of you can apply is there's a book called The Selfish Gene, where they talk about the most successful gene is the one that learns from other people's mistake rather than going through the trial and error.
Absolutely.
So with this program or this structure, what you're doing, you're sort of avoiding the trial and error, and hence the greater the chances of success.
Yep.
So as you mentioned in your life's journey that you started up a company called ConsulNet Inc., which was based out of Silicon Valley. But unfortunately, that startup was not successful. So I guess, failure along with sort of setbacks are what great entrepreneurs are made out of. And, as they say, calm waters never make great sailors. But the issue that I perceive is that, our current education system, it always, from the very beginning, it looks upon failure and setbacks in a very negative light. But I believe failure or setbacks, they're not good or bad. It is what it is, and what counts is how you sort of deal with it. So, can you first share why failure is an important part of the journey? And secondly, what personal lessons you've sort of learned from it?
So I think failure, not necessarily you need to fail, but if you fail, it's okay. That's what I would say. And if you fail, then, the smarter guys will take a note of it. Why did I fail? They'll be realistic in their approach. They will understand this is what I did. So this is the mistakes we did. And because of these mistakes, I think we did not succeed. Now, next time around, whether you're going to a job or you're going to another startup, you will avoid those mistakes. Hence, the failure is important. If you don't have failure and you continue on your journey as successful right from day one, great. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you fail, important part would be that you would list down those things that you shouldn't have done. That is one part. The second part is, what could have you done? It's not only what you avoid, but what you could have, what was the other way around? What there were more than one options with you and you did not take that option. Was those options better than the earlier one? Could have been not, who knows? But then you look at some parallel example and say, hey, I did this, I did not succeed, but he did the other one and he succeeded. So yes, that works. So other people's mistakes are also a learning for you, or other people's success is also learning for you. So you kind of bundle all together, you kind of nicely mix together, create a good mixture of both, and then you start applying again to the new venture or even on a job. If somebody is treating a job like just a job, then trust me, he or she is going to have a problem. But if you're treating a job as something that you enjoy because you're solving a problem, in tomorrow's world, only people who solve problems will be appreciated. People who are, and I call them coding club, people who are just sitting there and coding day and night and just thinking that they've done some great job because somebody's assigned them a job, those guys will have a limited options. So to widen your horizon and to have more options in life as you go ahead, you need to keep solving problems. And if you keep that, best learn from the mistakes that you made earlier. And as far as I'm concerned, I think I made so many mistakes, right? But I think sometimes the instincts play a lot of role. And if your instincts are telling you do this and you do that, and that turns out right. So in my case, a lot of my instincts were playing third time around. Of course, I made sure that I don't do the same mistakes I did in the second one. The first one was box pushing. I would never get into box pushing again. That's not the business you should be in. That's the business. That's a good business, but that's a lifestyle business. That's not a venture scale business. The second mistake that we did when we did ConsulNet was we got caught up into a horrible timing, and we could not react very fast to that time. Right, the first recession happens in 2011, and then the 9/11 happened. Now both were back to back, and we were like kind of buried under that because there was nobody ready to spend money on IT. So then we realized, okay, so these are the mistakes we did. When I went to the third one, I realized no box pushing. Keep your eye on at least 6 months to a year. As we say in entrepreneur world, you should have it's like driving in a fog situation when you're actually doing a startup. But when you're going in a foggy situation, put your headlights on and to the full throttle. So you can see, as far as you can see, you're safe. And that's what we learned from our second one, that we did not have, we were so excited, we had 4 subsidiaries around the world, we were going too fast, we thought we will have the world by, we had so many contracts to execute, and suddenly this whole thing happened and boom, everything crashed. So don't run too fast. Just be in control of your thing, one step at a time, build it slowly. If you have your strong core, nobody is going to replicate your business. And I learned that in Cellcast. 10 years, there was no competition. People tried to replicate our business. They failed miserably. because our core was so strong, the technology was strong, the infrastructure we created was strong, everything was everything was done with a lot of planning and a lot of a lot of farsightedness, that this is what is going to happen. You must see what if this doesn't happen this way, if it happens this way. So you need to have what if scenarios. You need to have a team. The team should be somebody who's not a yes man but tells you you're wrong or you may be wrong, and then you need to hear them out, and then discuss with them and find a way out. So many mistakes that you eliminate. And then also we had a problem when government suddenly came and said, hey, you can't charge premium rates on this product. And we said, why? Government should not. We sued government, we fought the case, but and we won. Actually, we won the case in tribunal, and government had to reverse the order, but we lost about a year, and we lost the momentum, and we lost a lot of money. So we said we sell off. So all these things tells me that mistakes are important to learn from, and other people's success, keep an eye on that, and keep your peripheral vision also on every now and then, not always, and collect the information, analyze the information, draw your own inferences, and then keep moving forward, one step at a time.
That's great advice, sir. So just to sort of recap, as you said, that failure is neither good or bad. I mean, if you're not failing, it's fine. You don't need to be looking for failure. But if you do fail, then the steps that you need to take are, you need to pivot, first of all, just to recognize what the problem was. Then it's about sort of reflection, what to avoid and what to do the next time around. And it's also important to sort of look at other people's success, as you said, the periphery vision, but not always, sometimes. And you mentioned that in the future, the people that have value will be people who can solve complex problems.
Yeah, I mean, not complex, simple problems. Everything. You look around yourself and, COVID situation, right? We all learn how important is keeping hygiene up to the mark. This was a very small problem. People were just ignoring it. And suddenly they learned a big lesson out of it. Yeah. So I think it's not complex problem, it's a problem. You need to solve problem. Don't leave the problem on the table. More complex or more bigger the problem, bigger the opportunity is.
Absolutely. So as you just mentioned about the COVID, so let's just talk about that. So, it is a global event, the likes of which my generation and the generation before, we've probably never seen that. Now, according to IMF, the global economy is expected to shrink by over 3% in just 2020, which is like the steepest slowdown since the Great Depression of 1930s. And now, as per a report by Reuters, since March 21st, more than 36 million people have filed for unemployment benefits. And that's just alone in the US, so which is their quarter of their working age population. So in these sort of turbulent and difficult times, what do you think, A, the students graduating and the young professionals should do, and B, crazy people like myself who want to start a business should do?
The students, one of the biggest problem with the students is that they give too much importance to their studies, and they give too much importance to their grades, and it's not entirely their fault. It's the way the system is built. Everybody wants to look at the guy who scores the max and the first 100, the best top 10 guys, the top 20 guys who are scoring. But in life, it doesn't work out that way. People, one of my teachers used to say, he said, when we look at the class, there are three thing of the class: the front benchers, the middle ones, and the back benchers. And then he used to say, you need to watch out for the front and the back. Front, because they may take your job. He said middle. He said, yeah, they'll be there, so don't worry. Back benches, because you may be working for them. So it's a statement coming from one of my favorite teachers, and he told me, he said, so I was a little taller guy than I used to the back, and he used to say that. He said, look at the back benches, these guys are, going to be, they will find their way through, and they'll come back and they'll tell you. And yeah, we turned out to be okay. And whenever we have the reunion, we all look at each other and say, everybody's fine. Even the middle guys are fine. But the point is, the backbenchers are actually way ahead of everybody else. But that's a fact. I'm saying students should not give too much, importance to grades, but they should give importance to learning. There's a difference between education and learning. Educating yourself is educating on what other people want you to do, and learning is what you want to do. And learning is where the world will actually open up for you, and the world will respect that, and the world will actually give you due credit. If you keep educating yourself, then trust me, at the outset, it may not turn out to be that good. You may become a professor, which is fine, but you will never become a, Warren Buffett. So the students should do. Now, in this situation, just relax. 1 year in anybody's life is not going to make a difference. And don't think that you haven't got the best job or the best this or best that. It doesn't matter. Just wait. Just let this time pass. And you'll find that there are many, many better things that are happening. Within COVID itself, there are opportunities of galore. So many things are happening. You just look around and you'll find problems actually multiplying. Just have that courage to solve a problem. And that goes for somebody like you, because you are not really student. You have come some way far. So you should look around and say, what is the problem can I solve? But when you're solving a problem, keep 3 things in mind. 1, is it within your core competency? Can you solve a problem with your own skills? Because that's the only thing that will matter then. Second thing, keep in mind in a particular statement called affordable loss. Anything that you start now, you should at least pursue for 3 years. And that 3 years, what are you going to lose in terms of your opportunity cost, in terms of your expenses, in terms of your, parents' expectations, or anything else for that matter, or if you're a married man, can you afford it? All these things. And you calculate that, and if it turns out to be a sum that you will not regret letting go of because you are trying to do something more important, then go for it. But if you can't afford it, then stop and do something where you can continue earning your bread, continue doing something which is actually, and financial, I'm all talking about financial obligations. All financial obligations, you are really taking care of them. That's the second thing, affordable loss. First thing is core, second affordable loss. Third, are you a team? Because entrepreneurship is not it's not a lone sport. It's a team sport. It's not a lone ranger situation. You need to have a team. And team with complementary skills. Team who can buy into your vision and work with you. Not necessarily always agreeing with you, but you have the veto power. So once everything you heard, you discussed, you argued, and then you said, no, I think this is the way we're going to go. And then you need to respect that. These 3 things, if you have, then go ahead, take a plunge. Otherwise, stay away.
Absolutely. That's, beautiful advice. And it applies so much to me because I'm literally in the process of just starting up a company. So apart from the last one, I think I have the first 2. I can sort of justify that to myself. But given, say, and let's just take an example of a young professional or a student who's graduated. They have an idea, they want to solve a problem. But given it's COVID-19, the situation is bad. So universities are closed and everything is online. So my experience with entrepreneurship, when I was in uni, I started a company, and it was with a best friend of mine at the time. And we had those complementary skills, so we started it. But now I feel, and I think I'm not alone here, I feel like I'm a bit isolated. So I don't have the reach that I used to have. So in such a time, how would you advise building a team or finding a team?
So team doesn't mean more than one more person. 2 people is good enough. That's it. To start, two people is good enough. If you have a compelling idea that is solving a real problem, and you should enroll into a program. We'll take you through that process where you will validate the problem and the solution from the customer point of view. You will figure out the value proposition. You'll figure out how much they are willing to pay and what is their ability to pay. And then at the end of the program, you also meet investors who can say, yes, I'm ready to invest in your idea and your this thing. You don't need to build any prototype. You don't need to write a single piece of code. They just need to understand that you can write this piece of code, or you can actually do this prototype because you have the core skills. That's it. Investors are not looking at the physical thing or a working model or something. They are looking at team. Is this team, they can do it or not? If they can do it, we believe that. And all they have done is they've gone and spoken to some real customers. Real customers are really ready to back them up. And that's it. Finished. And we do that every day in and out. I mean, in last 1.5 months, we had 3 pitching sessions, about 15 odd companies. I think 8 or 9 have got the investor nod. I mean, money is around. That's not a problem. The VCs or any investors, what are they looking for? They're looking for proof of concept, let's say. Okay. What is the proof of concept? Proof of concept is that there is this idea which is solving a real problem, and the problem that is being solved is through a solution, and this solution has takers. If you can prove that to them, you have a proof of problem.
That's true. I mean, it's just, I think then you can sort of chalk this up to, say, lack of experience. My understanding was, let's build a minimum viable product, let's test it, and then you take it to a VC. So the higher chances of success. But as you mentioned, if you have the right team and, within your team, you have the core competencies, then the money is there.
Yeah, that's it. Let's say if you have a finished product and then you go to a VC and VC says, okay, has anybody said they will buy it? You said, no. What is the probability that people will buy it? Well, I think people should buy it. Oh, what do you mean you think? You haven't gone and checked? No. So go and check. Now then you go to potential customers who you think would need it, and you say, hey, he said, no, I'm not looking for this. I'm looking for this kind of a thing. Hey, I'm looking for this. Then what do? You change it. So your MVP becomes a prototype, and you go back to this thing. Hey, before that, ask him what does he want, and build what he wants, and he's ready to pay for it. It's more logical.
Absolutely. So in one of your interviews, you mentioned validate before you initiate. So I think this is the key mantra you need to I need to keep in mind, or others need to keep in mind. Got it. So we've got students covered. Students should focus on, rather than their just grades, they should focus on self-learning, because that's the key for creating opportunities. Then we have the entrepreneurs, and for entrepreneurs you mentioned 3 main things, which would be have the core competencies, define your opportunity loss or your affordable loss, and if you think you can sort of justify it, then just go for it. And finally, you need a skill that's that has the complementary skills, and just 2 people are good enough. You don't need 4, 5, 6 people. That's fantastic. So the other thing that I want to sort of discuss, as you mentioned, that you should first solve a problem and then look for mentors, as mentors can sort of validate your idea. They can help you monetize and sort of scale your idea. So you also mentioned that all these skills necessary for success in business, they can be sort of acquired if you're working 10 years in a job. But if you're just starting out, if you're just a university graduate, the best alternative is to find a mentor who can sort of help you avoid the pitfalls. So, we all know the importance of mentors. So for those of us just starting out, can you advise us on how to secure a mentor and how to make them matter?
So, first of all, this entire the mentorship part of it is also pretty, hazy right now. A lot of mentors are overbearing, and they think, and especially the ex-entrepreneurs, because they believe that if they've been partially or successful, then that's the only way to do again and again, and that's not true. Every startup or every entrepreneur has a unique business proposition, and it needs a very, very unique treatment. And if the mentor doesn't understand that, then he's not a real mentor. He's just pretending to be a mentor. Mentor is somebody who's basically your sounding board, and he's the one who challenges you, who actually wants you to look at all 4, 5, 6, 10 sides of of every aspect before you actually decide on one. And he's not the one who's going to push you or ask you to do a specific thing in a specific way. He's going to say, okay, oh, okay, this is the problem. Okay, let's look at it this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can do this in 5 different ways. Now, as far as I'm concerned, your core skills is number 3. So look at the number 3 first. However, if this is not what you think, look at number 4, because this is closer to what your skills are. Because you don't have anything else when you're starting off other than the skills. You don't have anything. I mean, if some rich guy is starting off, then he has money, but then he has skills and money, right? He doesn't have the experience to do it. So all I'm trying to say is that when you're starting off, only thing you have is skills. So focus on your skills, and that's what mentor helps you focus on. A mentor also comes with a lot of network, and when you say I want to do this, you say, okay, you want to do this, I'm fine, but how will you do this? Tell me. Okay, then you tell him, then you say, okay, if you want to do this, why don't you meet this guy? He'll be able to help you out better than I can. So mentors are people who are more giver than actually takers, right? But that doesn't mean that you should only consider them as givers and everything is over. No, you should help them actually understanding that they have to put their skin in the game. A skin in the game comes in 2 ways. One is giving them some equity, asking them, okay, I don't have money, but I can give you some equity, and let's do a deal where you will mentor me, and the mentor should do that. Now, the second thing that you should always look up to mentor was that he's not working for you. He's an advisor. He's an outside-in party. He's not inside-out party. Now, outside-in means he can help you, but he's not a genie. He's not going to solve all the problems for you. He cannot. But he will have ways to point yourself into a direction where you will go and solve your own problems. Now, why would somebody want to become your mentor? Somebody would want to become your mentor because, number one, you are ready to listen. That is one. Second, you have the skills that he can see are extremely important to solve a particular problem. So he respects you for that. He respects you because you have the ability to do that. That is the second reason that he or she will work with you. The third reason he'll work with you is because the problem you're solving is genuinely solving some real problem of the world. It's not a frivolous problem. So if you have all these three, you will find somebody who's not overbearing, who's ready to listen to you, who's ready to push you when required, who's ready to actually challenge your thinking, thoughts, everything. And that is the real mentor for you. And you will find them. If you don't find them, within your circle, come to us. We'll get you one. Because we train mentors also. We also train mentors because most of them don't understand this. This only comes once you've been there, done it multiple times, and you've been there for 25 years, and then you know what you were looking for mentors. And then you understand, oh yes, okay, this is what I was looking for mentors. And then you try and give that back. And that's the attitude that you need from a mentor. Giving it back to the ecosystem, giving it back to the society, giving it back to the nation, giving it back to the humanity. And me and my partners are here because we want to give back.
So, it has to be a sort of a non-zero-sum game where, it's a win for the mentor as well as for the mentee. You can't just expect them to sort of keep giving you and, you take it for granted. The other thing that I actually liked about the advice was the self-decision part, where, at the end of the day, an entrepreneur is responsible for solving the problems. The mentor can sort of only show you the way, but he won't solve the problem. So that's why I think self-learning is so important, not just in entrepreneurship, as a student or even in a job, because at the end of the day, the responsibility lies with you, how you sort of respond to the problems.
Yeah, absolutely. So we always, I give a kind of an example, a mentor is like a basket, off the court, and when you're not playing a match or something, he will really test out you. He'll give you all the advices, what to do, how to do 3-pointers, 2-pointers, 1-pointers. Your elbow is left, your elbow is right, you're not jumping right. If you land, you will hurt your feet. All that he will give you. But when it comes to playing the game, and you're in your last 3 seconds, the choice is making a 3-pointer or a 2-pointer. He's not going to shout from the sideline saying that, dude, 3-pointers, win this for me. No. He's going to leave that decision to you. You will take that call based on, because you understand the situation the best. Whether you have the right angle, whether you're close or far enough to make that 3-pointer. Have you practiced enough? Are you in the state of mind today? Right? Now, these are all your calls. He or she is not going to look at you and push you to do anything. You will make that 3-pointer. If you make that 3-pointer, great. If you miss that 3-pointer, fine. There's another one coming next week. And he's going to take all that, sit down with you and analyze that and say, dude, I think you could have made that 3-pointer if you'd taken a little bit of, this or that. Or said, in such cases, it's better to do a 2-pointer because at least you will get a draw, you'll not lose. Or anything else for that matter. So that's the mentor.
Absolutely. So, I just wanted to thank you so much because you've shared so many valuable insights and action points here. Just finally, I wanted to ask you if there's one piece of advice that you think everyone, given you have 30 plus years of experience in entrepreneurship and in companies, is there any one piece of advice that you want to offer to the listeners?
Yeah, so a lot of entrepreneurs don't give a great amount of importance to corporate governance, and it's a word which people don't want to talk about it, and I'm not talking corporate governance from the board or the structure point of view. I'm talking about when you actually land up yourself in some kind of a pit. You make some mistake. A mistake has happened. Don't try to cover it up. Go make a full disclosure. 100% disclosure. There is no point hiding anything. Mistake happens. You need to learn from it. And anybody who tells you that mistakes should not happen should not be part of your conversation. Mistake happens. But once the mistake happens, right, make a full disclosure. Honesty and integrity will take you a long, long way than actually being dishonest and covering it up. And that should go for anybody who's a student entrepreneur or somebody who's got who's got something 10 years, 15 years experience, because it's almost suicidal. So don't do that. That's the best piece of advice I can give right now.
I agree 100%, and I can relate to this on a very personal level, as I've been in business with my father for 3+ years now, and he preaches the same: honesty, integrity, and the importance of commitment. So, for example, if he has committed something to someone or gave his word, but due to external circumstances it doesn't happen, I've seen him take loss financially rather than choosing to go back on his word.
Yep, that's the way it should be.
Great. All right, sir. So thank you so much for coming onto the show. I really appreciate it. And thank you for sharing so much of your advice.
Not a problem. My pleasure.
You've been listening to the SUCCESSology podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you like the show, make sure to leave a review on Apple Podcast and share it with a friend. That would help too. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with Raj on his personal LinkedIn at Rajdeep Singh, on Instagram at Rajdeep.1997, on Instagram at SUCCESSology.podcast, and on YouTube at SUCCESSology Podcast, helping you create your own definition of success. Make your own path to get there quicker. Until next time, This is the SUCCESSology podcast signing off.